Man, today do I have a great dish for you. This beef stew is to die for. Look at all those ingredients in there. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi chefs, real quick. To support my channel, please visit uppingclothing.com where you can purchase some really cool, nice merchandise, or you can make a donation. You can make an anonymous donation, which all goes to 100% raising money for the charity to prevent homelessness in America. Also, I'm giving away 100 free aprons to my first 100 donors. So please like, share, subscribe, and visit uppingclothing.com. Okay, get started with a bottle of wine or a glass of wine, whichever one you like, as well as you're going to need your boneless beef stew. I buy 2 packs of this. You're going to need 2 packs. This is a great meal. I always have to buy 2 packs because it's always gone really quickly. You want some fresh bay leaves, and then I have about 9 tomatoes here, fresh tomatoes, and 2 red bell peppers, as well as a red onion, okay? Now, I use a can of Rotel. I use the mild. You can use hot or original. I buy 2 cans of tomato paste. If you want to cut this meal in half, just use half of everything that I'm using. So I'm using 2 of that, curry powder, paprika, red cayenne pepper, parsley, some fresh ground pepper, regular pepper, and then I use a peppercorn sauce, a jalapeno sauce, olive oil, minced garlic, and I like to use this beefy onion Lipton's recipe. It's a really great secret or substitute to beef bouillon, as well as butter and a little bit of salt, of course, as well as some coconut oil. I will explain that later. Tomatoes. Cut the core out. Cut each tomato in about 8 different slices. Place them in a bowl or strainer. Red bell pepper, chopped. Red onion. Now we want to cut the onion in half. We're going to use half of the red onion and just chop it really good. And then the other half will be sliced. So we chop it. We're going to add that into our bowl that's ready to go into the blender, as well as our tomato paste. Go ahead and open your can of tomato paste. Now let's go ahead and pour our mixture over into the blender. So I have everything in there, and I'm going to add in the tomato paste on top here. Tomato paste is there. Now let's add in some garlic. So I add about a tablespoon of garlic to there, as well as some of this hot peppercorn pepper sauce, because I like it to be kind of spicy, and I find that this gives a really good spicy kind of flavor. You can avoid this if you don't want any spice to it. And then let's, of course, put in some pepper on top and a little bit of salt as well. Now let's add about a cup of water to the blender. And that's going to make it easy to blend. Okay. And then let's add a dash of oil, some olive oil to the mixture, and a little bit of curry powder. Paprika. Now we're going to start with a little light blend. And now take a spoon while it's still blending, and we're going to kind of use the spoon to push down some of the larger pieces of veggies and let that just go ahead and blend down. We don't want to frappe it so it's like water, but we want to get it to where it is a nice consistency of kind of a stew. We don't want it completely liquefied. So it's going to just, you'll start to see it. Once it starts to circle where it's blending, we'll go ahead and turn it off. And that's kind of how you want it to look. Perfect. So back to the other half of our onion, we're going to cut this into slices. So it's going to look like this. We want slices. And then we're also going to cut up a regular white onion into slices as well. And then I'm going to take my other tomato and I'm going to cut that into fours, or about 8 pieces. Okay, and now for the coconut oil. I use coconut oil, number one, because it is able to be heated at a higher temperature and not burn. So I'm going to take a cup of that and put that in a pot. Also, coconut oil is better on your arteries than using like any other oil, especially if you have to use a lot of oil. It's better to use coconut. Okay, now the oil is getting hot. We're going to add in the tomato that I cut up. And another good thing I like about coconut oil is that it is tasteless, you guys. So don't be thrown off by the fact that it's coconut oil. I like to use organic coconut oil, or any coconut oil will be fine. Organic, I really like it. But you can't taste this oil, so don't be thrown off by the fact that we're using coconut oil. It is tasteless, and it is actually a little better. It is better for you than actually using the other oils, or just like butter, especially since we're putting in a whole cup of oil. Now I'm going to add in the onions, white onions, and I like to do layered seasoning. So I will saute that for a minute, and then I will add in the red onions, and it layers the flavors with the veggies all together. So here goes the red onions. Okay, let's add some salt to this mixture. Don't be afraid of the salt. We are adding a whole lot of beef to this, and it needs to be seasoned. So you can add your salt. I have some black pepper and the black peppercorn sauce. Because I like my food a little spicy, I'm going to add 3 of these in there. It gives a really good flavor. It's not too hot. It's not too spicy for me and my taste. But don't use it if you don't like it. The beef, I've already rinsed that off. And you can see this has a real nice sear going on. The veggies have kind of wilted down all the way. Now let's get ready to add in our beefy onion Lipton soup recipe secrets. Or you can use a beef bouillon. It's up to you, whatever you can find at the store. I like to use the Lipton's beefy soup. So I go ahead and pour in your beef, and we need to make sure that we cover that. So we want to stir it around a little bit and go ahead and add in our Lipton's pack and the rest of our seasoning. So we're going to put that in there. This stuff is amazing. It makes any dish taste like great. If you can't find this, just use beef bouillon. So I'm going to mix that around really good. And then I'm going to add in some more spices. So let's add in a little bit more curry powder, okay? And we're going to add in a little more paprika. Okay, and let's add a little bit more salt, because like I said, it's a lot of beef, so you don't want it to be bland, okay? And you can always reduce it later if it is too salty, but it's not going to be too salty. Now I'm going to add in a little bit more of this because I love it. And then I'm going to give that a really good mix. And you want to put your lid on tight and put it on for about 15 minutes or so with the lid closed, pretty tight on like a medium heat. And what this does is it tenderizes that meat in that coconut oil. So I'm going to set my timer so I don't forget about it. We don't want it to burn. We're going to check on it like every 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes is up. Checking on this stew, and let me tell you what, this smells so good, you guys. I have woken up the whole neighborhood with this stew. It's so good. So I'm going to cover it another 10 minutes, and I'm going to check on it later. Now here is our sauce that we had made earlier for the stew. I'm going to give it a stir, and you want to go ahead and taste it. Now it doesn't taste very strong. It's not very salty. It just has a taste of like the blended veggies. Because we have so much salt and seasonings in the beef, it's going to blend perfectly together with all of these tomatoes and the red onions and everything that we have in there. It's going to come together nicely. This is what you called layered flavoring, okay? So I'm going to cover that for 20 minutes and let that cook down. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. Now let's go ahead and add in a bay leaf. maybe 2 of those. I may add in another one. But you want to add in that about 10 minutes later. So like I said, we have a layer of flavoring going on right now. You don't want to put everything in the pot all at once and cook it together. Okay? Okay, now let's get that back to a rolling boil. And I'm going to stir that around a little bit. And then I'm going to put it down to a simmer and set the timer for 15 minutes. And I told you I was going to make another thing of sauce because I really like a lot of mixture. A lot of this. It's so good. And I'm going to add my seasoning back again, the curry powder, a little bit of paprika, and then I'm going to put the lid on to the side so that some of that water can evaporate, so it'll be a real nice thick stew. Okay, and surprise, I'm making grilled cheese with this. I love grilled cheese. It goes perfectly with this. So I've melted some butter. I'm going to show you the best way to make grilled cheese. So melt your butter, and then you're going to put it onto your bread. So we're going to evenly put that across, and that butter that's melted is going to soak through a little bit to the other side. But this is going to be heavenly, delicious grilled cheese, okay? So let's do that to all pieces. Now to make that grilled cheese amazing, here's a little secret. Add a little bit of mayonnaise. Now if you don't like mayonnaise, you still want to add this because this is going to make it awesome. I promise. You just want to add a light cover of the mayonnaise to that bread on top of the butter. Okay? Okay, and to make it super delicious, we want to heat what would be the interior of our sandwich, our grilled cheese sandwich. So you want to put that in the oven on broil. Make sure you watch it, and you'll start to see it bubble a little bit. It'll come out really crisp on the edges, really nice, and that cheese will be hot before we put it in the pan. So in the pan, I've added about 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to heat that a little bit on the stove, and then we'll add in our grilled cheese and mash it down with the spatula and make sure it's all soaked into that bread. So I've taken the bread, I've put the other piece on top of each piece of toast, and I'm going to just simply lay that over inside of my pan that is like medium-high heat, and I'm going to lay the other one in there, and then give it about a minute or so. I tilt my skillet all around so the butter can be absorbed around all the edges of that bread. And then I'm going to take and flip that bread over. And you want to keep an eye on this because it will burn easily. Like butter is one of those types of oils that you cannot leave in the pan on high. So I'm going to flip that, and then I will flip it again and get it to the right consistency or the right type of crispiness that I want on my grilled cheese. And now that the bread has absorbed most of that, we want to add a little bit more butter to each side because you see our pan is getting a little dry. So we want to add just a little dabs of butter on each side before we get ready to flip our bread another time. And look how that is just absorbing really good. And the toast is ready, so I'm turning that off, leaving it in the pan, and now I'm back over here to the stew. Let's go ahead and add in our green chilies. The stew has been like simmering for about 30 minutes or a little more, and now that I've added the rotel, it gives it some texture. Now another secret, we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of sugar on top. Just take a little bit in your hand, sprinkle a little bit of sugar around, and then give it a good stir. Like I said, we're doing layered flavoring, so all of these flavors are going to come together when we eat this stew. It's going to have so many different flavors and textures that it's just going to taste wonderful. So give it a good stir, put it back on for another 10 minutes so that those flavors can absorb into the beef and the flavor of the stew. And that's it. Let's go ahead. I put it in a bowl. I have 2 bowls. There's our wonderful
fire.
Good. And there you have it, guys. Beef stew and grilled cheese. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.